We all know the face. The kindly old man with the mustache. Uncle Walt. He is the man who gave us magic. He gave us Mickey Mouse. He gave us the happiest place on earth. But there was another face. A face he kept hidden in the shadows of Burbank. To the public, he was a dreamer. But to the United States government, he was something else entirely. His code name was S.A.C. Contact. For 25 years, Walt Disney wasn't just making cartoons. He was a secret informant for the FBI. He reported on his own actors. He named names. He destroyed careers. And his vision for the future wasn't a theme park. It was a city where you couldn't vote, couldn't retire, and were watched 24 hours a day. Was he a patriot? Or was he a paranoid tyrant? Today we unlock the Disney Vault, but we aren't looking for cartoons. We are looking for the files. The darkness started in 1941. Walt Disney had just released Snow White. He was the king of animation. But inside the studio, his workers were starving. They were working 6 days a week with no overtime for pennies. Some animators were literally fainting from exhaustion at their desks. Walt didn't care. He believed they should work for the honor of being at Disney. When they asked for a union, Walt took it personally. He didn't see it as a business negotiation. He saw it as a betrayal. On May 29, 1941, the animators went on strike. Walt drove through the picket line. When his own artists booed him, he reportedly stopped the car and almost got into a fistfight with his lead animator, Art Babbitt. Walt had to be held back by studio guards. He went home that night, shaking with rage. He felt like a father whose children had stabbed him in the back. And in that moment of anger, he made a decision that would change Hollywood forever. He decided that his workers weren't just ungrateful. He decided they were communists. Walt picked up the phone. He called the Federal Bureau of Investigation. He didn't just want to break the strike. He wanted to destroy the people who started it. This was the beginning of a 25-year friendship with J. Edgar Hoover, the most powerful man in America. Walt Disney became an official S.A.C. contact. Special Agent in Charge contact. He wasn't an agent, he was a snitch. He agreed to pass information to the FBI about anyone in Hollywood he suspected of being un-American. In exchange, J. Edgar Hoover gave him protection, and he gave him power. Hoover even let Walt use the FBI's vast resources for his own personal vendettas. For example, Walt wanted to fire an animator but couldn't because of his union contract. So he asked the FBI to dig up dirt on the guy. Hoover's agents found nothing, but the message was clear. Cross Walt Disney, and you cross the FBI. This alliance turned Walt into a key player in the Hollywood blacklist. The infamous House Un-American Activities Committee, or HUAC, came to Hollywood in 1947 looking for communists. And who was their star witness? Walt Disney. He sat before Congress, under oath, and named names. He pointed the finger at his own employees, including Art Babbitt, the man he almost fought on the picket line. He branded them as agitators and communists. These accusations, coming from a man as beloved as Walt Disney, were a death sentence for their careers. They were blacklisted, unable to find work in Hollywood for years. Walt saw himself as a patriot, defending his country from a red menace. But to the people whose lives he ruined, he was a monster hiding behind the smiling face of Mickey Mouse. This paranoia didn't just stay within his studio. It bled into his grandest vision, a project he worked on in secret until the day he died. It wasn't a movie, it wasn't a theme park, it was a city. He called it Epcot, the experimental prototype community of tomorrow. Today, we know Epcot as a part of Disney World, a theme park celebrating technology and world cultures. But that's not what Walt wanted. His original Epcot was meant to be a real, functioning city, home to 20,000 people. And Walt would be its king. In his vision, there would be no private home ownership. Everyone would rent their homes from Disney. No one could vote. All decisions would be made by a Disney-appointed board. There would be no unemployment, because everyone would be required to work for Disney. And most chillingly, there would be no retirement. When you got too old to work, you would be forced to leave. Walt's city was a totalitarian utopia, a perfectly controlled environment where the company had absolute power over its residents' lives. He even planned for a sophisticated surveillance system to monitor public areas, ensuring everyone followed the rules. Walt's vision for Epcot was a direct reflection of his personality, a brilliant innovator obsessed with control. He wanted to build a perfect world, but his idea of perfection was a world without dissent, without unions, without anyone questioning his authority. He genuinely believed this was for the greater good. He saw his control not as tyranny, but as benevolent guidance. He was the wise father, and the citizens of Epcot were his children, who needed to be told how to live. This dream of a controlled society died with him in 1966. The company executives were terrified of the legal and ethical nightmares of building a private city-state. So they transformed his plan into the theme park we know today, a safe and sanitized version of his radical dream. But the blueprints remain, a testament to the dark ambition that lurked beneath the surface of the world's favorite storyteller. The man who created the happiest place on Earth also dreamed of creating the most controlled one. So we are left with two Walt Disneys. There's the public figure, the visionary who brought joy to millions, the man whose signature is a symbol of childhood wonder. And then there's the private man, revealed in declassified FBI files and his own secret plans. The paranoid informant, the union buster, the aspiring autocrat who saw communists behind every corner and dreamed of a city where he was the absolute ruler. Which one is the real Walt Disney? The truth is they both are. He was a man of immense contradictions. A genius with a dark side. A creator of magical worlds who was deeply suspicious of the real one. He was a patriot who used the power of the state to crush his personal enemies. He loved America, but he didn't seem to trust its citizens with the freedom to disagree with him. His story is a powerful reminder that the lines between hero and villain, dreamer and tyrant, are often blurry. The man who taught us to wish upon a star also showed us how easily a dream of a perfect world can become a nightmare of control. It's easy to judge him from the comfort of our time. He lived through the Great Depression, World War II, and the Cold War. It was an era of fear and uncertainty, and many people, not just Walt, were swept up in the anti-communist hysteria. His partnership with the FBI was, in his mind, a patriotic duty. He saw himself as protecting the American way of life from a real and present danger. His desire for control at his studio and in his dream city stemmed from a belief that he knew best, that his vision was the only way to achieve perfection and progress. Was he wrong? By today's standards, absolutely. His actions destroyed lives and his vision for Epcot was chillingly authoritarian. But to simply label him a villain is to ignore the complexity of the man and his times. He was a product of his era, a flawed genius whose brilliance was matched only by his paranoia. The legacy he left behind is just as complex. The Disney Company today is a global entertainment empire. But it's also a corporation that has faced its own controversies, from labor disputes to censorship. The Disney Vault isn't just a marketing gimmick for re-releasing old movies. It's a metaphor for the company's long history of carefully controlling its own image, of hiding the less savory parts of its past. But the files are out there. The stories of the animator's strike, the S.A.C testimony, and the original plan for Epcot are part of the historical record. They don't erase the magic of Cinderella or the joy of Disneyland. But they do give us a more complete, more honest picture of the man who built the House of Mouse. The story of Walt Disney is not a simple fairy tale. It's a human story with all the light and shadow that entails. Thank you for watching. If you found this journey into the Disney archives interesting, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more hidden histories. See you next time.